Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Royal Room Rumble. I hope you're doing well. I hope all your family and friends are well. I hope you're having an amazing day. And today I have some footage from the Matters Now site, which is kind of a follow-up to Modern Day Debate. A very good friend of mine, Ozien, was debating Nadir, who is a Muslim. Ozien's an atheist, on whether the Quran is scientific. And it was an odd debate. It was very strange. I will link the debate down below, and I'll link Oz's channel because I think he did a good job. I had some sort of small criticisms and sort of some more tactical stuff, but there wasn't really anything wrong with what he presented. I think he did a really good job. It was more the engagement with Nadir afterwards. So he was in the room of the after show, came on in, said some stuff. I sort of pushed back on it hard because I felt like the whole idea of something being scientific, it has kind of been co-opted by a lot of different religions. You know, they'll say, hey, we've got scientific knowledge, or our religion agrees with science, or we've got the science and normal religion is pseudoscience in the case of, you know, flat earthers and young earth creationists. They're sort of co-opting what it is and what it is in our society, which is methodological naturalism, the study of the natural world. So this all came about because Nadir sort of came into the after show, Ozien came into the after show, and I sort of took up where Ozien left off. And I did criticize Ozien, but I think that it was valid if you do watch the debate. And it was really meant to be constructive about his control over the subject of the debate and Nadir's control over the subject of the debate. So I'm good friends with Ozien. I think he's an absolutely wonderful guy. I just sort of, you know, professionally, I had some issues with how the debate went, and I think that he could have exerted a lot more control over the direction of the debate and what was being discussed. And so don't take it as that he's bad. He's actually wonderful at debate. So and I think he was trying something new as well. But yeah, it got into this conversation with Nadir, and sort of we more it's very strange what he's currently trying to do, which is seems to be trying to get atheists on side with Islam. And maybe it's sort of due to wanting a tenuous alliance against Christians from atheists, but I feel no compulsion to take the side of Islam against Christianity. I'm really sorry. I just can't do that. I think both of them are equally wrong about their claims, and both of them are horrendously wrong about what they claim to be scientific in their books. So I will not sort of say, hey, now Islam is superior. I actually probably think that in practice it is slightly inferior. I think that there's very few Christian theocracies in the world, but there are Muslim theocracies, and they worry me. They definitely do worry me, like all theocracies worry me. And, you know, the attempts for Christians to make a theocracy worries me. But it was kind of odd. But I think I'll put it up. I'll link to Matters Now, of course. And so, yeah, it got very interesting over whether the things that the Bible was wrong about, but the Quran didn't get wrong, is actually scientific. And I certainly have my position on it. But I hope you enjoy. I hope you keep well. And let's get ready to
claim. And like arguing for mustard seeds, like he opens up like it's all like causes suffering. I'm like, how's a mustard seed cause suffering? I don't get it.
That's weird.
All right.
And he also threw the big JC under the bus. Really smart move. That's a really smart theory, to throw your prophet under the bus. Really great job. Stellar performance.
I don't think he's really concerned about that. But I think the only people I see like serious apologetics do this are Muslims. Like the serious Christian apologetics don't do this. You do run into arguments, but it's usually from people who don't do apologetics in Christianity. They don't usually go in for this kind of discussion, like is the Bible scientific kind of thing. Very rarely do you see it.
All right. And it's a 20th century argument, too. I looked into the history of the scientific miracles. It stems like the 1950s, like just try to like rationalize the crane. It's like they're trying to make it more miraculous than it actually is. Like the miracle should be everything was created by God. He's like, I don't know.
All right, Dr. J, what did you think about Nadir's opening?
I was slightly confused. I don't know if Ozien kind of agreed to this beforehand, but I felt he was arguing with me and not Ozien, and I wasn't there, and I was confused of why. He had these 6 ways that Islam was, the Quran was better than the Bible or whatever, and I'm like, surely Ozien doesn't give a rip about this. I don't know if Ozien agreed to go down that road or not, but I thought it was like completely missing the whole boat on the thing.
Yeah, I got a bunch of messages telling me what I was going to have to agree to in the debate. I'm like, okay, I'm not, but thank you. Yeah, it was
I think my brother in Christ, Ozien, did very well today defending Christianity, and you win. You won heaven because you defended the Bible really well today.
Well, I wasn't trying to defend. I actually wasn't defending Christianity, though. I was trying to say that neither of them were. It's not a scientific claim. Like the mustard seed, it's a parable or whatever you want to call it. It's an analogy how you can grow big things from small things. Like it's the parable. It's like your faith and your belief can grow into this huge, strong thing that can move mountains. Basically, it's even though they don't mean you can literally move a mountain, they don't even though people will do that straw man argument against Christianity. But I tried to do that at we're doing Nadir's opening, but yeah, I wrote a bunch of notes. We'll skip. Oh. I think Nadir Nadir did his typical opening argument for.
That is true. Justin, hello, welcome.
Hey, hi. Thanks for having me, man.
It's your own show.
What's that?
It's your own show, like. You're welcome.
It's your show, man. Even Oz made that very clear. He's not hosting, you are. So no, don't let anybody take that away from you. The people in the chat love when you host, and actually we love it too. So thank you for hosting the after show for us. Since
you're very welcome. How did you like the debate tonight?
It was interesting. There was a couple of times where I felt like I really probably should have just jumped in. It's hard to tell because I had a great analogy to explain what it was like, but his comments were very left-handed, or backhanded. Like, was he being insulting, or was he using words properly? Saying words like, "Oh, people are just ignorant." It's like, well, that can be offensive, but at the same time, that's the claim he's making. So it was real tough to navigate from being insulting to he's using words properly.
Well, it helps me as a foil against him. When he insults me like that, I can direct that back to the audience to show he's not really arguing against my position. He's just calling me foolish and ignorant. So, I think doing that type of stuff harms you. I try to avoid doing that stuff unless somebody says something that's really bad.
Yeah, and that's a good point. If the person you're debating against, if you're going to accuse them of being, ignorant or unintelligent at all, then you're basically saying that, like, I'm in a seat right now and punching down. You don't want to, push your opponent down. You want to elevate them to your level so that you can have a really good, strong debate that way. But I don't think he was being mean, maybe a little bit like insensitive or something, but yeah.
I don't think so. I would actually disagree. I don't think so. I think he was just being he was just using sort of rhetoric kind of thing. He was just, and maybe it was a bit incendiary, but I think it's just his style of rhetoric. He just sort of says all of these very...
He's a trash talker.
Basically, yeah. And
I'm
that's
not offended
okay.
by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't think he's trying to insult. I just think that
he's trash talking.
Uses this rhetoric. Yeah, it's just a rhetorical device, but it's a little laughable.
We've seen people on modern day debate be blatantly insulting.
Yeah,
and I don't believe that Nadir was blatantly trying to offend or insult anyone. He's just trash talking. He's one-on-one on a basketball court with Ozien saying things about his shoes. Like, it's whatever.
Yeah, he wants to do a three-way debate, Christian, Muslim, and atheist over slavery. I would love to have the debate. I have no problem with Nadir. Like, he was fine. Yeah. Thank you for moderating.
Oh, that's
so let's pass it over to Isa. What do you think about Nadir's opening?
I think he was shadowboxing with an invisible Christian. So yeah, maybe he was trying to debate Dr. J. I think he should have come with the debate towards atheism, but I don't think that is like in his kind of roundhouse, like his in his storehouse of skills. You have to be prepared to dealing with atheism, because this is his normal box of tricks that he likes to do. He likes to attack the New Testament. I don't know why. I don't think it helps him. I don't think it helps defending Islam at all. Attacking Jesus is one of the most ridiculous things I can imagine, especially on a parable, like focusing on the parable. The alcohol argument doesn't work because, first and foremost, alcohol was permitted in Islam, which he doesn't talk about. Then it gets abrogated later on. So you're not, and then you're just saying, oh, there's no benefit in that. Actually, the Islamic teaching says there is benefit in alcohol, but the bad things outweigh the good. That's the argument within Islamic theology. So, and this is just traditional classical.
Pointed it out.
Yeah, it's classical. Mm-hmm. It's classical arguments within Islam. So that doesn't work. I think it's just every single one of those points did not really help a case of providing is Islam scientific. It basically gave us a case for, hey, Islam is kind of cool, but we didn't prove. You could say, hey, there's some ethical, moral things, I guess, but you can't really prove that Islamic scientific. Also, trying to prove a religion is scientific is a gigantic task. It's not like a snake oil salesman that can go around and say, hey, I have this ambrosia that will heal all your problems. It's a snake oil salesman pitch. It doesn't really work very well. It's not efficient. It's not effective. This is the kind of feelings that I've got like throughout the 6-point argument, because that's his foundation, was those 6 points. The mustard seed was ridiculous. Going for a parable is so stupid. It's actually exactly what would be in my wheelhouse, is saying these religions and spiritual narratives, and they should be viewed as such. They should not be viewed as scientific documents, because then you actually have to utilize science. You have to go and do the work. It was just, wow. Just using the same rhetorical technique yields the same results, and it sounds cute. So what I think it does, I'm just rounding off my way of looking at this. What I think it does efficiently is it sounds good. So it wins like cheap victories on the surface. He has these quick tidbits, quick quips, and it makes you say, hey, this left an impact. I like his rhetoric. I like his kind of maneuvers. And you're like, wow, that's super interesting. But again, I don't think it wins the battle. I don't think it wins the war. It just wins little, it doesn't win the war. It wins small battles. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Thank you so much. And Mark, Nadir's opening thoughts.
Yeah, I have to agree. He was like, I love what he said, like shadowboxing with a Christian. Like, there was nothing in that addressed sort of anything that an atheist would bring to the table. Really, he seems to have this idea that if Christianity is wrong, then Islam is right, and that's not the position his opponent has. His opponent has the position that both are not scientific. So he's got this crutch where he's leaning on Islam being superior to Christianity in order to prove that his point is right. And, that's just a tu quoque fallacy, basically. And you also, when your opponent isn't even making that point. Like, you could say, hey, the Quran is more scientific than the Bible, but they've had an extra, 600 odd years to find out more stuff. That's not expected. That's not unexpected, right? Like, if you have 600 years to discover stuff, of course you're going to know more about the natural world. That's just what's going to happen. I think his are we just focusing on the opening, like Nadir's
on the opening? Yes, for now, yes. We'll go into the rest of the debate later.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about his opening. I think that, and I do have some criticism leveraged at Ozien as well. Sorry, Oz. But he just has these 6 points and he didn't want to go off of them. So
did you just apologize for criticizing Oz?
Well, I'm going to, yeah.
Don't apologize. No, it's okay. This is the beauty and the point of this channel.
Okay.
And nobody criticizes them harder than I do. So go ahead.
Well, I don't mean in a mean way. It's just he outlined these points, and he basically was going to ride or die on these points, like 100% ride or die on these points. And the sort of, he came across as very arrogant, declaring, "Oh, well, that's a tick for Islam kind of thing, and a fail for Christianity." How does that in any way relate to the topic of the subject? Like, if the topic of the subject was, is the Quran more correct about scientific facts than the Bible, he might have a point. It's like, at the start, I thought he mistook Ozien for a Christian. I honestly thought he thought Ozien was a Christian. Like, I honestly thought that. And I thought, does he know? And then I'm like, of course he knows, right? Right? Because
I told him.
Yeah, right. It's really weird. It's like he wanted to make this statement about Christians, and it didn't matter that a Christian wasn't in front of him. Like, he just was using it to do to broadcast these points to the audience rather than actually engage Ozien on the topic. Right? He was just there to say, hey, Christians, the Bible's inferior to Quran, Christianity inferior to Islam. People won't debate me. That was the other weird thing all through it. And I think he just wanted to tell that to an audience rather than actually debate somebody on their position. So, yeah, that was my take on it.
All right, let's kick it over to Tyler. Welcome. Hello. And what's your take on Nadir's opening?
Hi, I'm Tyler. First time using the camera. Hope I don't regret it. But yeah, this is what it looked like. I don't know what else I can add that Isa and Mark haven't already said. My impression was, like, I remember thinking that his stance was that atheists are inferior to Christians, and so if he can argue against Christianity, that atheists will be fooled also. And I've met a lot of Muslims that hold this worldview, unfortunately, and it's an absurdity. I remember thinking to myself, if Lord of the Rings is more scientific than Where the Wild Things Are, that doesn't make the Lord of the Rings a scientific book. It was just, it was more of the same from Nadir, where he repeats himself a lot, and I think he's convincing himself. And he's relying on his own core audience that is going to hit the mute button as soon as somebody else starts talking. And I think he was just doing more of that, or maybe he thinks that he's going to repost it with a translation for those that only speak Arabic or something like that. And maybe they will only listen to his side of things. And it's just an absurdity. It was really tough to watch, and I was having a lot of fun in the chat there. Sorry, Justin, if I got a little too silly there at any point, but
no, not at all.
I appreciate you not banning me and letting me stick around.
No.
And thanks again for that subscription. That was awfully generous of you.
Man.
So I thank you thoroughly.
Someone in our chat just asked if you were Hagrid. Does that bother you? Because I think that's awesome.
I've been called Hagrid by a lot of people. I've never read the books. I really don't care. I consider myself like an overweight Jesus, more of a thing, because I try to model his visage. But Hagrid is okay too. I guess I have.
Hagrid is the most beloved character from that entire series, so I would take it as a compliment for sure.
Awesome.
Also, Mark Reid might be looking for a model for Bigfoot Jesus. So if you're looking for work,
thanks.
Robin Webster for $2 says criticism for Oz. Please don't call fetus a baby. So now, Shane, you can be the last one to give us your opinions on Nadir's opening, and we'll jump on to Oz's opening.
Well, like most of the stuff's already been covered pretty well. I would just go back to saying that the mustard seed analogy. It's a useful concept, but not good to equate to scientific evidence. I don't think whatsoever. It seems to be more of just a biological truth, but not evidence of a text being scientific. And it seems more philosophical than scientific, I imagine, right? Like it's hard to word this. I think it's more of a philosophical concept, if I'm not mistaken, than a scientific one. The mustard seed analogy he was using. I didn't think it was very good, a very good opening. I mean, it's a decent analogy for philosophy, but for not for describing like controlled scientific experiments. Can't be equated through analogies. That's about it, really.
Thank you very much. And Oz, any final note on Nadir's opening?
Yeah, I think this whole argument's malformed in the first place, because I think I pointed it out as it's oxymoronic. It's a contradiction. Science is a method of finding the truth. A pragmatic method. Miracles have no explanation. So to claim that there's an explanation for no explanation for a scientific claim is contradictory. So like if he wants to, I think everybody brought it up. I think it's a poor argument. If he was trying to make a moral argument, saying living this lifestyle compared to these other lifestyles is a better way, but he doesn't even do that. He contrasts it with Christianity all the time. He should contrast it. He should set Islam up on its own pedestal, and why Islam, living the life as a Muslim, is preferable to something else. But then that still doesn't go to the veracity of the claim. It just goes to whether it provides more benefits or not to society.
Thank you very much. All right. So, Ozien's opening. Do you want to start, Justin?
Ozien's opening? I mean, I think Mark kind of pointed at it a little bit, where Ozien came in with a very much not paint by numbers, but he knew exactly where he wanted to go, and he was gonna go there as fast as he could, because he had some great arguments. I think he had some slam dunks in his pockets, but he had to get around the offensive line first. I don't know. I just made a football and a basketball analogy at the same time. Figure that out. But maybe I'm wrong. But that's how it felt. It felt like he was just I want to get over to, because I think he had a couple of ninja stars in his pocket. He was just waiting to throw them, and he was trying to get to where he could. If that makes any sense?
It does.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
All right, Isa, Ozien's opening.
Well, Ozzy and I actually talked before this debate, so I'm gonna be honest about that. So we already kind of knew some of the strategies and game plans of how to engage this. And I feel that Ozien got a grand slam right in the beginning. Because first and foremost, what Ozien did was he engaged what the Quran said. He engaged the topic of the debate, which was not what happened with Nadir, unfortunately. He said, okay, I'm going to engage what the Quran says. Then I'm going to go into what science is. And this is what you need to do for your intro for your debate. You have to talk about what your opponent is. You have to steelman your opponent. You have to engage and grant your opponent's position in the most positive light. And I think Ozien really did that well by first showcasing the verses of the Quran, then explaining what the verses, scientific, like what science means. And I think that framing device really was strong and it was really impactful. And I think it was a great groundwork for the rest of the debate for him.
Thank you very much. Dr. J, thoughts on Ozien's opening? You are muted.
You're muted, Dr. J.
Yeah, you're still muted.
Sorry. I'd say Ozien. Yeah, I'd say Ozien's one of the best introers in all of MDD, meaning that he preps an intro for real. And so many MDD debaters do not. Seems like worse lately. There are others that do, so he's not the only one, but he always does seem to prep one. I do appreciate that. As the debate went on, I was having trouble connecting his intro with what they were talking about, so that was maybe a negative or whatnot, but I really do appreciate that Ozien does work hard on his introductions.
Thank you very much. Mark, any thoughts on Ozien's opening?
Yeah, I liked your presentation. I think maybe I would have liked a little bit more information on the slides or something to sort of break it up a bit just from text, like just some pictures to sort of just break the monotony of just text. So that's really nitpicky, but I did like your presentation. I think I probably would have gone for more what scientific means and what a scientific text actually is, like give some examples of what scientific texts are. Like give some examples of textbooks, give some examples of how scientists use texts to find out information and implement that information into their own studies. Give examples of scientific papers, how they're used. But that is pretty nitpicky. I didn't really have a problem with your introduction. I think you had some really good points in there. I think you were addressing the topic. I don't think Nadir particularly was. He was just having a religion fight with an atheist. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, I don't. I think that the introduction was absolutely fine. I'd probably jazz it up a bit and maybe be a bit more specific about definitions, but that's about it.
I wasn't even going to originally use a PowerPoint. I decided to do that, so I at least had some bullet points so people could follow along, because I think I feel it doing that sometimes.
Thank you very much. Over to Shane. What are your thoughts on Ozien's opening?
I think Mark just touched on it a little bit. I like how he pointed out different passages from the Quran, and then made the made the comparisons of things like the hand washing, for science, that it's that's going to be for hygiene and for things that we understand today that we didn't understand then, of getting bacteria and stuff off of us that can cause infections, but it's spiritual for them. That science is testable, verifiable, and that the Quran, something about, I think it was when we have a design ideas, we'll show them to you right there. And then obviously the science, that's built off the backs of previous scientists and current understanding, whereas the Quran was just the words and understanding of the time that it was written in. And I just think he did a really good job of illustrating in just his opening before the debate even got going, as to how the Quran is just not not scientific whatsoever, not even a little bit.
Thank you very much. And we're kicking it over to Tyler.
Hi again. Okay, so let me just preface this by saying, Ozien, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. I feel like we've gotten to know each other pretty well over these past couple of months, having the dialogues that we have. But I feel like maybe, okay, so I don't want you to take this the wrong way. It's intended to be constructive criticism. I feel like your opening, it was good. I don't want to put you down for that. It's just that from my perspective, there's no glory dunking on a 4-year-old. So like if the Harlem Globetrotters are showing off to like a 10-year-old middle school or elementary school basketball team, I feel like your opening was maybe too good for the quality of debate that Nadir brought, and it was far over his head. I don't think he understood epistemic luck, and he kind of just shrugged it off. I feel like you were playing the game, and you might have been better off playing your opponent. And again, it was a terrific opening. It was a terrific presentation. You hit the nail on the head with everything you did. It's just I don't think it made any sense to Nadir, and so I don't think it qualified to him. Although, like, again, like from what I've seen of Nadir's quality of debate.
Let me interrupt you for just a moment. I swapped two users because Nadir is with us and I've added him.
Yeah, welcome, Nadir. You can swap me out too there, Max. I desperately need to get some rest. So
okay, thank you so much for your moderation.
Good night, buddy. Good job hosting tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Nadir, I didn't get a chance to tell you because Justin ran us off, but I really did appreciate the conversation. There's the smack talk, the debate bro stuff. I have no problem with that. I was just responding to, because I use that as a rhetoric point too in the debate to say, see, he's just smack talking. So, anyways, I try not to smack talk in debates a little bit, but I did appreciate it, and I am still. It would be fun to do a slavery debate, I think, but I don't think he'd like my argument against Islam either. But if you want to say which one I think is better,
we got to do slavery. Yeah. You know, the Christians need to answer the slave beating verses in their book, and let's compare that with what Islam teaches.
Yeah. So now they're talking about my opening. They all talked about your opening. So we have a format. If you've seen these before, we try to follow them. But
I'll just be a fly on the wall.
Thank you. They're going to give me some criticism here coming up too.
I know.
Yes, and Samir, how have you been, and what's your thoughts on Ozien's opening?
Okay, unfortunately, I joined when you guys were.
You're roboting a bit.
And this.
I
am. Can you hear me better now?
No.
Okay. No.
No. Sorry.
Getting a little better.
Yeah.
So say a sentence.
Okay.
Say something long.
There. Yeah. It's sounding a little better now.
Okay. Okay. I changed my internet connection. Hopefully, that's going to fix the problem. No.
Maybe try resetting your phone or your PC and coming back.
It might be working now. Try it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll. If it doesn't work, I'll just leave and try. It's better now.
Now it's just fine. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So like I said, I entered the chat or the Zoom right before you guys started this question, and to be honest, I missed the opening, and so I didn't hear Ozien's opening. I would go back and listen to both openings because actually I missed both openings, but I'll jump in once you guys get to something that I witnessed or to the parts that I witnessed. I witnessed most of the debate.
Well, that's fine. Let's just move on then. Yeah, let's just move on.
And the next one would be the open discussion. Any thoughts can come to mind, Oz? during the open discussion?
I want to criticize myself a little bit. I stumbled over my own words a couple times. I could have said the thing. I think I went over too much information a little bit. But anyways, open discussion. I loved the open discussion. I think I had to interrupt Nadir every few times because you always wanted to move on to the next topic. But other than that, I think we did a good job addressing both of our positions for why we felt it was a scientific miracle and why we felt it wasn't. So I like the open discussion.
All right, let's kick it over to Nadir. What are your thoughts? How did you feel during the open discussion? Any self-criticism like Ozien did, or anything you want to bring to our attention?
Yeah, I wish I would have emphasized more on the fact that the objections which Ozien was presenting were not based on facts. It was his interpretation of how he wants to interpret which is better. So it was very deeply rooted in his personal interpretation. But where the scientific miracle of the Quran is by putting aside people's interpretations and looking at the facts. And I think that what is the question which I would like to hear from everybody here, because I don't think Ozien had an answer. I don't think there is a good answer. How did Muhammad know about these 6 problematic passages in the Bible? Because they are a problem. We have scientific research which points to these verses and say it's a problem. And Ozien has seen those as well. And how did Muhammad know about that? And how was he able to provide his own responses, which doesn't get him in trouble? Let alone if you want to say it agrees with science or not, he keeps out of trouble 6 times. So that's a sign that this could be from God.
Someone has a little bit of background noise, yes. All right, thank you so much, Nadir, and we'll go around the panel and everyone gives their opinions, and we have a couple more of these banners to discuss regarding the debate. So the next one would be Isa. Take it away.
On which thing? On the 6 points?
No, about the open discussion.
You mean the open discussion in the conversation?
Yeah, in general, during the debate.
I honestly would have liked more of an engagement of atheism towards, the atheist, a counter towards the atheist position in the engagement of the Quran as opposed to more of the engagement towards Christianity, because I think that would have been more grounded, because Ozien is a specialist within, atheism. So I think that would have been more helpful to hear that within the discussion. I think there was a lot of interesting ideas that came out through the discussion, and definitely we heard certain kinds of points from the scriptures. I definitely think if there was more of a focus, I think we would have gotten a lot more out of it. If we had a certain kind of focus on certain particular points, that would have been more helpful, I think, for the audience.
Thank you very much. Dr. J, what are your thoughts on the open discussion?
I would say the open discussion for me was just super, super frustrating. So the open discussion seemed to be dominated by those 6 questions. Those 6 questions were between a Muslim and a Christian, not a Muslim and who is actually being debated with. And so therefore, I just found it really, really kind of frustrating. I kept waiting for Ozien to say, dude, I'm not a Christian. Who cares about? Sure, the Bible's wrong. The Bible's stupid. Who cares? So I was just sort of like, I'm confused. Ozien doesn't. I mean, I thought Ozien was nice. I mean, I think Ozien was correct on some of his understandings of Christian interpretation of the Bible, and he represented us just fine in some of those situations. But I was surprised he even bothered. I mean, it was nice of you to do, I guess, but I didn't even think you needed to, based on the subject of the debate.
Well, my argument was neither were scientific, but yeah.
Well, do you find those 6 passages problematic in your book?
Well, let's Nadir, let's go give everybody an answer about what they thought of the actual debate, and then we'll start talking about it. I think that's the format, isn't it, Max?
We'll have an open discussion here.
Yeah, we get a moment to just free flow. Yeah, so Mark, go ahead and.
Yeah, so the open debate, my criticism of Ozien was that he didn't actually leverage many points. Like, he had points in his opening and he did do them, but it seemed to be on those 6 points and he never left them. Now, Nadir at certain times, and Nadir, I'm sorry to have to say this, but you sort of said, hey, that's got nothing to do with debate. This has got nothing to do with the debate. It's about whether it's scientific. So anything in the Quran is definitely grounds for bringing up whether it's scientific or not. You seem to let Nadir just dictate what the debate was about, and it was about whether the Quran is scientific, not the 6 points that Nadir had in front of him. I do have to reiterate, I agree with Jay that sort of addressing, hey, you're an atheist, but you've got to defend the Christian Bible is weird. It's so weird. I think keeping on going to that, and I agree, Ozien should have said, hey, the Bible's completely wrong, the Quran's less wrong, so what? It doesn't matter. Like, there's nothing in there that matters. If the Bible's more wrong, does that make the Quran more scientific? No, it does not. And Ozien's points were not addressed in the slightest. The fact that this could be epistemic luck, which maybe you should have gone further into explaining what that is, like being right by pure chance. He didn't refute or even try to refute that in any way. He just declared that, hey, it was some sort of knowledge and not luck. How do you actually show that? You seem to think the burden of proof is on Ozien to show that it's not a miracle, and that isn't the way the burden of proof works. If you're claiming it's a miracle, you have to show it, and nothing of the sort was done. So I think that definitely there were mistakes made on both sides. I think that Nadir didn't answer any of Ozien's opening, and I think Ozien allowed Nadir to dominate what the debate was about, which was these 6 points.
Thank you very much, Mark. And let's kick it over to Shane. What are your thoughts on the open discussion?
On the back and forth.
Yes.
It was frustrating. I'm actually just now learning. Was it supposed to be somebody else debating and Ozien filled in? Was it actually supposed to be a Christian in there, or
was it?
No, it was supposed to be me.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just confused about the arguing about the validity of the Bible versus the Quran, but it was what I caught, off and on. It was frustrating. I didn't think there was any good evidence provided, obviously, for the Quran being scientific, and then, like others before me said, the mention of going back to the Christian Bible and it being less correct somehow makes the Quran more correct. I don't know how that holds water or has anything to do with the price of tea in China, but yeah.
Thank you very much. And let's kick it over to Samir. Samir, you as a Muslim, did you find the open discussion compelling? Do you find the general argument compelling by itself?
That's. I mean, I gotta break it down instead of like one straight answer. Here's the point. I mean, I really gotta defend Nadir a little bit in here because, I mean, I'm not 100% like lean. I mean, with Nadir on this, both with Islam, but let me try to explain. Number one, the point that Nadir made is actually valid, but it wasn't supposed to be a stopping. I felt like he was just trying to make a point and move on. But we gotta also admit, as much as I love Ozien, Ozien's personality too. He likes not to move on from a point unless it's like thoroughly debated and that kind of made it like stick with those points. So it wasn't only Nadir's fault, but it wasn't. I agree, it wasn't supposed to be the topic of the debate, but nonetheless, it is still a valid point, because what Nadir is saying here is that one of the things that Islam gets accused of a lot is that Islam was just copying scriptures that came before it. And the fact that he's mentioning Christianity is just happens to be the main religion that was before Islam. And if Islam was copying Christianity, it would not have taken up the challenge to correct some things that were in the previous scriptures. So that was a valid point, but I don't believe it was supposed to be the topic for the whole debate. But also, Brother Nadir, I gotta also, to be honest in front of God, I felt like from the PowerPoints that you had, I wondered if you prepared specifically to debate an atheist in this debate, or you reused or recycled the PowerPoints that you had from a previous debate, because I watched you before and I supported you before, and I felt like it was, I don't know if it was just accidentally things that you always had in front of you and you reused them, or this is the baggage that you brought in for tonight's debate, and that was all. You didn't have any other points. And it was many other things to talk about. But in general, the whole topic of the debate, and I know that every Muslim would agree about this, the Quran is the book of signs, S-I-G-N-S, not science. I'm not saying that Quran is anti-science or not scientific. I'm saying that the Quran is not supposed to lead you to the exact answer. The Quran is supposed to give you a sign, because the point is not to know, but the point of the religion is to believe. You get rewarded for believing. If you know, then you don't need to believe. So that's my 2 cents, and I'll pass the mic.
Thank you very much. And Leo, hello, how are you doing? And what are your thoughts on the open discussion?
Hey, Leo.
Hello.
Looks like I caught him off guard.
No. Something's wrong. Who killed Leo?
Yeah.
Might be muted and not know it.
Let me check.
Leo, have you tried turning it off and on again?
Poke your belt buttons.
No. Okay, let's move on while Leo gets that sorted out. And now, I wrote a note about all the 6 things that Nadir brought up, like his 6 individual arguments. But I'm going to ask the panel: is there anyone specific of those you want to discuss right now for a little bit, or do you want to do them all? I think all might be a little bit too much, right?
Maybe ask Nadir, which is the strongest point, do you think, of those 6 arguments he made? Do you think they're all equally as strong, or? Nadir?
Me,
which of those 6 points do you think is the strongest, do you think?
I mean, the most clearest is washing hands before you eat. That's just a better understanding, is a better answer than arguing over it.
Well, maybe we can discuss that one then. Max was looking for not necessarily going over each 6 of them, because it turned into like a 3-hour after show. But
yeah.
But yeah.
So let's if you want to,
yeah.
Yes, let's let Nadir give a summary of his position on that, and we can go around addressing sort of a mini discussion on that specific thing. Take it away, Nadir, please.
Well, what I'm hearing from the audience, I mean, about the group over here, especially Reid, they're saying, okay, your point is that you're pointing out that Islam is more accurate than the Bible, but you said, so what if one book is wrong and one book is less wrong? Okay, from that, it looks like that's what a lot of people here are accepting. Okay, it's just less wrong. The Quran is less wrong on the 6 points. Well, you're getting the point that Islam, you are all conceding Islam gave better answers, but what I would like to hear when you say that the Islamic answer is wrong, like not drinking alcohol, go wash your hands, please, avoiding mustard seeds, the smallest seed. How is this position wrong? So it's like you're meeting me halfway, but I want to know from you guys, where is this great scientific error on the 6 points that you guys are claiming is out there? That's the question I kind of have for what.
Well, but the problem with what you just said is you're asking a normative question. So you're talking about that the Quran answered these better than the Bible, but that's not scientific. That's a normative claim, and normativity is not really a part of science.
I don't know. What do you mean by normativity?
And normativity is like this idea of evaluation, that the decisions that we make are the result of how we evaluate our stances with respect to the situations that we're in, that we are informed by our stances when we make decisions.
Okay, so are you saying that what I have presented has nothing to do with science? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
No, well, I mean, for the most part, yeah, I don't think so. You're just making the claim that you think Islam answers these questions better than Christianity does. But again, that's a normative claim. The normativity comes in when you say better than.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're talking standards and differences in standards.
Well, maybe he didn't say better than. Maybe he said correctly. Correctly is the key word. Better than is a different keyword. He didn't say better than. He said correctly. Islam answered them correctly. That's a different thing.
Yeah, the problem with that is
but that's still not a scientific claim.
Just a sec, Leo, just a sec. The problem is that debate isn't about whether the Quran got something correct. The question is whether it is scientific. And for me, and I don't know, maybe we should get a definition of what scientific means from Nadir, but scientific would be following the scientific methodology, which the Quran certainly does not. And that's the problem, that you think if it gets something right, then it must be scientific. But I could say, hey, I guess that, sort of make a guess that Nadir has a red car, right? And I could be right about that. I could just get it right. And that's what Ozien was going to with epistemic luck. I could be right about that. But what I've done is certainly not scientific. And that's the problem. You're sort of equating science with being right. And you can be right without getting that answer scientifically.
Well, how did Muhammad know that those were 6 very problematic issues of the Bible and needs a better response?
I don't know if he did know.
That's still not.
Yeah, I see. Here's the thing: you have to prove that he actually did it scientifically, and the book was written in a scientific way. It's not up to me to say, hey, he could have just looked at people sort of falling over drunk, for instance, and said, hey, that's a bad thing. I don't like that. It could have been a personal preference. It could have been a sheer luck thing. He could have said, hey, Allah does not like alcohol, and just left it at that. It could have been all kinds of different things. The question is, how do you demonstrate that he actually engaged with a scientific method of observation, asking questions, testing, in order to come up with this idea that he has to ban alcohol, for instance?
Why would God need to get involved in a scientific method? He's God. He doesn't need to do all that. He knows.
I'm not saying he does. Right? I'm not saying he does. I'm saying that that's fine, but that, you've just conceded that if God's not being scientific when he's unveiled these things, then it's not a scientific book.
You guys accept there's 6 very problematic issues with the Bible I pointed out.
I don't care.
Muhammad addresses all 6, but you're saying he really didn't know that there were 6 problematic issues. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think the mustard seed's a problematic issue. I don't agree. They're all problematic. But let's go back. I think I brought this up in the debate too.
Literature from atheists on those 6 points. So even atheists can point that out.
I'm not that type of atheist, so I don't make
prescriptive
claims about the Bible because I don't do theology.
I don't think you listened to a word I said. I said, how do you tell the difference between somebody that's just seen some bad things happening and said, okay, well, I think that's bad and it's a preferential thing, and somebody that's engaged in a scientific way? How do you tell the difference from your text?
Okay. So if you just look at the one example, maybe you say just take one example, you can't make that conclusion that this is from some kind of divine origin. It could be luck, it could be a coincidence, it could be just a gamble. But once you start getting more like 2, 3, 4, 5, now you see there's a pattern being emerging here. This guy is correcting things in this book and he's getting it right.
Okay, you're off topic again, because it's not whether it was divinely inspired, it's whether it's scientific. So stay on topic. You're arguing, hey, it was divinely inspired. If it is, just say it is. It still doesn't make it scientific, right? You've got to keep on topic, and the topic is not whether it was divinely inspired. I'm not interested in debating that.
What do you mean by scientific?
Okay, so scientific is a process, a methodology that is used in order to determine the truth of the natural world around us. So it involves a step process that goes from observation of natural things around us, questioning, coming up with a hypothesis, creating testable, falsifiable predictions, peer review, and publishing of that scientific experiments and studies that you have done. That is the scientific process. So when we say a book is scientific, like, for instance, I've got, if I get a book like Boolean algebra and switching circuits, right? This is a scientific book. It's about Boolean algebra, right? So they did testing and they went through and they made circuits and they did testing to make this book. It's a scientific book. I can go through this if I had the time and the will to do it and do every single circuit in this book and demonstrate that it's correct, right? And they use the scientific method for this. That's what we mean by scientific.
Okay. So the research which I pointed out, which showed, like, for example, the mustard seed is not the smallest seed, was based on the scientific method. And all I'm saying is that Islam doesn't have that problem. And so,
okay, so the problem here is that research, the papers that you showed are scientific, but that's not the debate topic, Nadir. You were debating whether the Quran is scientific, not the papers you were showing. If the debate was, are these scientific papers that Nadir shows scientific, I would say yes. The question is whether the Quran is scientific, and it's not. It has no methodology. It's had no discussion of results. It doesn't explain why it's correct. This is all stuff that Ozien pointed out, and you just blatantly ignored through the entire thing.
So would you have preferred the title of the topic to be how you could say, we could just say, use the word science. How does the Bible and the Quran relate scientifically? Because obviously there is scientific significance in these books. They've been written about in literature. The Bible is specifically mentioned. So is it just a matter of the nomenclature, just the terminology? Do we need to come up with a better title? Is that really the only issue?
Let's give Tyler a chance to respond, and he also wants to chime in the conversation. Go ahead, Tyler.
Hi.
You can respond to Nadir's question and say what you wanted to say before.
I wanted to respond to something that Nadir said earlier, and this is something that came up in one of his last debates as well, which was his misrepresentation of hygiene in the Quran. Muhammad said something like, water is pure and it cannot be made impure. And we know that that's not true. We know about bacteria. So this whole claim that Islam preaches hygiene and washing one's hands before eating because it has to do with hygiene, it's completely false. And it's a complete misrepresentation of what actually happened. It was like a tradition or a ceremony, like a ritual to wash one's hands in water. That's what wudu is. But like, if you have water that has feces in it or something, you're not purifying your hands, you're making it worse. So this idea that the Quran talks about washing one's hands centuries before people discovered bacteria, and it's a good idea to wash one's hands, it's an absurdity. And I don't want to like gish gallop, because there was other points too, like the whole thing about alcohol. Like back in those days, water was very impure, And so alcohol, because of this distillation process, was actually healthier to drink than a lot of the water that was available at the time. So these claims are just completely false. And a lot of the times when the audience speaks up about this, it just gets discarded. And it's a real shame that Nadir's tactic is to say, X, Y, Z, and anytime somebody comes up with something else, it's just off topic, and he doesn't want to address it. And it's just something that I think needs to be called out.
Let's give Nadir a chance to respond, because you brought a couple of points all together. Nadir, go ahead if you want, and Samir, if you want to think a question.
Yeah, I'd like to help with this question too.
Hold on. No, if you want to, while Nadir is answering, think of a question for Ozien or anyone else on the panel. You get the next turn, okay?
Okay,
Nadir, go ahead.
If you guys don't mind, I would also like to help with this question if Nadir wants.
Go ahead, please. I'd like to hear from you.
Okay, if you guys don't mind. Okay, number one, what our friend, by the way, when there is something written underneath, we can see the names on the chat, so I apologize for not calling you by your name. What you said is just completely false. Number one, the purest water, anytime, until today, in the world, is still the one where Muhammad was.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you just
okay.
wrote
Okay.
After you said the
is it better now?
Water. Yes.
Okay. The purest water anywhere in the world until today is still the one where Muhammad and his companions were. It's a well called Zamzam, which was dug by Abraham in the desert, which is already a miracle, which still furnish water, and the water is exported from one well around the world until today. And you can go to any Mediterranean market today, and you can go buy a jug of Zamzam water that was filled in Zamzam. So the fact that you're saying the water was very impure, that is totally incorrect, and you needed to have at least something to stand on before you made that statement. Number two, about washing the hands. So it boils down to what? Washing hands over not washing hands, or not washing hands that maybe the water is impure? The fact that it was a tradition, no, it wasn't a tradition, because it was no, you have no scripture or any text that says that people were to wash their hands before they ate, or a text that said that they had to make wudu 5 times a day. And also there is other alternatives if water is not available. It's called tayammum. Some here must be familiar with what tayammum is. So I don't see where the objection is here.
Do ablution with the dust if you don't have running water.
Well,
yes.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to point out,
or with a stone, like a sea stone.
Stone works.
Really quick, the point of controversy with the washing hands was Jesus telling the Pharisees that washing your hands before you eat was not as important. So it was scriptural before, and that the parable is washing your hands aren't as important as living a good life, I think is what. I don't know. Dr. J should probably speak to it. He's a Christian.
Why are there two Dr. J's in the stream? Right next to each other. This is kind of freaking me out a little bit.
Agreed. That's so funny.
You misrepresent the text every single time, Nadir. You misrepresented every single time, and you say things like, "Well, you're," and I think it'd be really hard for you and I to talk about it, because it seems to see you say, "Well, I don't understand it correctly." I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess if I can't understand the Bible and you can, then we're done." I don't know what to say beyond that. You know what I mean? Like, the way you represent that passage is not how I understand it. It's not how I've ever heard that passage interpreted that way. And if you insist on that being the interpretation, then it's like, well, I guess you just know the Bible better than most other people, and I don't know what to say beyond that.
Well, the point is, here's the point. It's kind of like, it doesn't really matter what Jesus said about it. The point is that even the Jewish people, or the Israelite people, the Jewish people at that time, they knew to wash their hands. It wasn't sort of this new knowledge that Muhammad suddenly got. People before him knew to wash their hands.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me, responding to Tyler. I mean, it's a fair question you're asking about the purity of water, but that was never addressed in the debate. I can only answer what the debate issues which is raised to me. Now, I've answered that in other debates, and you'll see there's no scientific contradiction there. But going back to Dr. J, I did not interpret the Bible in any way. I accurately represented what was stated there. Jesus got angry when that's a fact. He began to.
I understand. You know how it works. You're just getting the straight interpretation. Yeah. Yours is right, and all the rest of us are wrong. I got you.
I didn't interpret the Bible. I just interpreted the Bible.
Hold on a second. So Jesus said that it was basically the ritual washing he was against, right? It shouldn't be ritualized, washing your hands. But if God wants you to be healthy, washing your hands repeatedly makes you healthy. Then God wants you to wash your hands repeatedly. That would be a ritual. So then how do you explain that contradiction?
Because it was actually brought up in the debate that soap and antibacterials were far after the fact. And that's not what the purpose of the voodoo was back when it was proposed. You can deny that, but that doesn't make that your denial is valid.
No, I think we're talking about washing hands in the Bible. How do you reconcile that, Doctor? How do you reconcile this contradiction, Dr. J, in the Bible?
The problem isn't the contradiction. The problem is you interpret it a certain way, you claim you're not interpreting it, and then you say there's a contradiction. That's what you're doing. Ozien explained the passage to you just fine. He explained it the way I understand it. He explained to you multiple times. You reject his interpretation. Then you take your interpretation and say Ozien's an idiot, or me. I'm not an idiot, but Ozien's wrong, or I'm wrong, or whoever else is wrong. That's what you're doing. I don't know how to help you.
What's my interpretation?
You're saying
that on washing hands in the Bible, what interpretation did I give? I asked.
You're saying the point of that is trying to say that the point of that is Jesus trying to tell people it's not important to wash their hands. Not the point of the passage at all.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
What I said. I pointed out the contradiction which I just presented to you, and I said that Jesus became argumentative about the issue of washing hands, and you shouldn't be argumentative about this issue. That's it.
There's a point for that.
I wanted to say just one thing really quickly, if I may. I don't want it, and I'm not saying that it is, but I don't want it to be lost on anybody in this room, on the stage, or anybody in the chat, that the scientific method did not exist at this time. Modern science, as we understand it over the last 400 years, did not exist at this time. And I think that this bears heavily on whether or not the Quran is scientific. But I don't think whether or not the Quran and the Bible disagree about whether or not you should wash your hands because it's healthy really relates to whether either book is scientific or not.
Yeah. I want to answer a question Nadir asked early on. I think you asked, how would I argue it? So if I was a Muslim and I was trying to argue that the Quran provided better answers, I would make that argument. I would say the Quran provides better answers on how we live our lives, divorce, it provides better outcomes for people. The average suicide rate for Muslims is lower, even though if you go to sub-Saharan Africa, the Muslims there have a higher suicide rate than average in the world. But overall, Muslims have a lower suicide rate. That's a wonderful thing. There's lots of wonderful things that are a consequence of this type of culture. Now, I don't know on the balance if it's the best worldview for humanity, but even if it is the case, it provides a good outcome. And we've seen these arguments before. It doesn't mean that the Quran is true. It just means living, unless you believe the goal is the truth. Like some people will say the end goal is justification for the claim. And if that's the case, that's fine. For me, that's not convincing at all. So I would have to demonstrate that Allah exists and that Gabriel exists and that Muhammad actually got a true message and that the message was truly preserved before I even got to accepting any of the claims in the Quran as being inspired by Allah. So, I mean, that's typically the apologetics I hear, like the Quran is perfect and it's perfectly preserved. There's no errors and stuff like that. But that's how I would approach these type of debates about the ethical framework that the Quran can provide for a community.
See, the way I approach this debate.
1 second. I'm going to give Nadir a chance to respond, and then we're going to go a little bit into reading messages from the users. So please go ahead, Nadir.
Yeah, what I want everybody here to understand, and I repeated it several times in the debate, I only, and especially for you to understand, Dr. J, I only present facts. Facts about verses, facts about passages of the Bible. I don't get into interpreting scripture. I don't, and I've asked Ozien several times in the debate. I said, listen, if I am not keeping my end of the bargain here and I'm really just giving my interpretation, call me out on it. And he didn't. So, and I'll still hold that same challenge here. I don't interpret the scripture. I just let it read for itself. It's a statement of fact that there's a contradiction there. It's a statement of fact that Jesus became argumentative about this issue. I don't go any further than that.
This is why we wouldn't be able to have a discussion at all, because your understanding of interpretation and mine are different. You think it's possible to read a text and not interpret it at all. Somehow you have this ability to clairvoyantly see it just right. But the rest of us, if we see it differently, we're interpreting. And I think you're just totally wrong about that. And that sort of thing, I've seen debate multiple times, is the thing that you never agree with people on. You walk out of it thinking you smoked everybody because you've seen all the passages correctly and they've seen all of them wrong. And the rest of them walk away going, why is this Nadir thinking he's winning every time? He's not.
Well, if I might jump in here, in Islam,
Samir, really quickly, because I want to go a little.
Yeah, sure. I just wanna end this argument. In Islam, we have something in the Quran that is called al-muhkam and al-mutashabih. If I use my own language to translate or own knowledge, muhkam means God says there are verses which are like stable in the meaning, and there are verses which could be left for interpretation in the Quran. So, for example, an example of muhkam, when I say Muhammadun Rasulullah, Muhammad is the prophet of Allah. There is nothing left for interpretation. It reads as is. And for another verse, which is mutashabih, then two people could read it differently. So, that if that helps.
All right, and thank you to all of those who have been sending out messages and super chats. I've kept some messages I find interesting or saying hi. The first one we have is from Oliver Catwell, becoming a new member. Woohoo! And now, Sydney Raptor, there is a Quranic reference to alcohol being called water of the blessed or something like that. Any thoughts on, it's not precisely a question, but have you heard about this, either Nadir or Samir?
No, honestly, I don't know what they refer to. If they come back and find a better way to ask, I'll be happy to answer it. But honestly, I have no idea what they mean.
No problem. It's fine. We can move along.
I'm pretty sure alcohol is haram. That's what I've always heard.
Yes.
I think they
the comedy Bengali matters
they
now.
Might be
have
talking
you
about
seen?
like wine in paradise. Like it could be something about that.
Yes.
That's my understanding of what they're trying to say.
More sense, but.
The comedy Bengali says matters now. Have you seen the Ali Dawa video on Science Miracle? And I have to say that I haven't. I don't know if Ozien has seen it.
Can I say something on that?
Sure. Yes.
I'm not sure, and this is the second time I've either heard it or seen it said or written by somebody tonight on this stream. science miracle or scientific miracle. I don't know what does that mean. I'm just lost. A scientific, which means laws of nature, miracle, which means violating the laws of nature. I'm just so lost.
To be fair, Ozien called it out during the debate as an oxymoron.
Yeah, and somebody thought they were being called an oxymoron.
You know, maybe you should talk to the scientists what they mean by Children's Miracle Network. You can Google that. They use the word miracle a lot. You know?
That's the name of a group, dude. That's
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. The Mars landing.
Okay, you don't have to laugh like that, please.
Yeah, no. Listen, the Mars landing was
I got
a miracle.
stoners laugh. All right.
The problem is, it all goes back to the fundamental problem with what we saw in tonight's debate. It's everything you guys present is interpretation based. It is not fact based. All objections are based.
That's because everything is interpretation based.
Now, if
there isn't
scientists
anything that
can
isn't
use the
based on
word miracle,
interpretations.
if scientists can use the word miracle, like for example, the Mars landing was this great miracle, something which is incredible, something which is awesome. This type of terminology, I should be able
Mark,
to use
you
it
can
too.
go next.
There's nothing wrong with using the term miracle to describe something
like
fantastic or amazing. And I think that atheists need to understand that. But the point which I wanted to make, what we saw tonight's debate about correcting 6 scientific mistakes in the Bible, that is a miracle in the sense that it is beyond any human explanation of how a human being can do that.
600 years after the fact, they had more information. That's
wait, hold on. Mark had his hand raised, please.
Yeah, so the Children's Miracle Network is the name of an organization. You might as well ask why, sort of Sanitarium has that name or sort of Arnott's has that name. No, it's completely irrelevant to defining
religion. Why are they promoting
Excuse me, Nadir. Let me talk.
Can I steal
It's just the name of an organization. It doesn't define miracle in any way, and it doesn't define science in any way. It's just the name of an organization that you've taken to mean a definition when it is not. It is never used that way in science. Now, the whole thing about sort of you say, hey, they say that it's a miracle landing on this or a miracle there. Yeah, I'm happy with the word miracle being used as a metaphor in science. They use it as a metaphor. They're not actually talking about a God reaching down and putting the lander on the moon or putting the satellite in orbit. That's not what they're talking about. So
or inspiring Muhammad with the truth.
So Reid, we can agree on that.
No. I'm being interrupted by all kinds of people, everybody at this point in time. So when you're talking like this is a miracle in science, you're not talking about what you're talking about, which is saying something supernatural. Leo is right. It is an oxymoron to say a scientific miracle because one is methodological naturalism and the other is supernatural. They are conflicted in their entire the entire things and what they are conflict with one another. I did have something else, but I've forgotten it, so I'll give it up there.
I just want to steel man what Nadir I think was trying to say, that he's trying to say that he's using it metaphorically. Are you speaking, Max? You're muted, Max.
Yeah, sorry. Finish.
But I think you got it. I think whoever pointed it out, it's sort of an equivocation fallacy because you're trying to say I'm using miracle metaphorically when I say scientific miracle, but then later on, I draw the conclusion that it is actually a miracle that Muhammad knew these 6 things. So I think there is a bit of equivocation fallacy when you do that. So,
all right, and I'm going to ask everyone to keep it succinct so we get through these messages. And if you're in the audience and want to get your message read, the best thing you can do is send in a super chat. We have Ozien did very well against the circular reasoning, babbling Nadir. Hannah with the greetings, a little bit on the mean side. I'm sorry. Now, taking back Eden FP $2 Canadian says, thank you, Ozien, for mentioning Islam and flat Earth. Do you want to address that, Ozien?
Very, very few Muslims believe in a flat Earth, as far as I know. But I have a lot of flat Earth followers, Nadir, that even though I disagree with them, they follow my content. So, anyways,
that is true.
Flat Earth is halal.
Yeah, I think that's for the Wahhabi folks.
All right, the next one I thought interesting. Huhaman asked, "What is family science?"
I think it'd be like
Depends
a part
on
of
the
social
context.
science or something like that. It's a study of families in social science. So it would be like a soft science. Like what's the best outcome for family units for raising children, stuff like that. And so like we brought up the point during the debate about single parent homes, and I was trying to point out the problem in more deals with income. But then you'd say it's okay to get divorced. I think we did it. I think that was your weakest argument, Nadir.
I had to rephrase. I reworded it to divorce and remarriage, because really what the issue is really not divorce, but it's remarriage. That's where it's just a better answer. Yes, you can get remarried, even if you just didn't like your spouse. You got in an argument, fight, whatever. That's not allowed inside the New Testament. And so see, what I'm hearing tonight, nobody's really arguing against the fact that, okay, Islam did provide better answers to these 6 issues. So it almost seems like we're kind of like all in agreement, but we're just kind of arguing over little details here.
Well, it's because the topic doesn't turn. I could grant you all 6 of the points that you brought up, and whether or not the Quran is scientific does not turn on any of them. That's why.
Well,
you keep bringing up the irrelevant points, and we keep saying that they're irrelevant to the actual topic.
Okay,
and then it just goes around and around again.
We're making progress. At least we can all agree tonight that the 6 points are better. Now, where the question comes is, how did Muhammad know that these were? He could have given 6 answers which were even worse than what the New Testament presented, or he could have done 3 out of 4, made 3 mistakes, 4 he gave better answers. But the question, where I'm now saying is inexplicable, is getting all 6 better answers. You could do 1 or 2, maybe, but all 6? And I only had time to give 6. There's much more than that. And I think that's where you guys are not able to answer.
Like, why are we talking about the New Testament at all?
It could
it's
be
not
any
anything to do with the subject at all.
This is where you're wrong. It could be, just think of the New Testament as book A, and think of the Quran as book B. Book A's got some problematic issues. Book B is able
but the debate is on whether book B is scientific, not book A.
Correct.
Yes. Well, the fact that you were able to know that to be able to, number one, identify the 6 problems and give better answers, that needs some pause, some thinking. And if you don't want to accept it as a miracle, fine, we could call it a sign.
Most of those facts
would be a
were
very good
relatively
sign
common knowledge
this
back
is
then.
right. What?
And it is not some kind of miracle that people who read books and had knowledge like 600 years prior is less than people that had knowledge 600 years later. That is like the least miraculous thing that's ever been discovered in the history of mankind.
So you're saying all this information was in prior books?
Well, I mean,
a lot of it
the
is,
hand washing was not all of it, but a lot of
a lot of
this knowledge
was common knowledge.
Embryology.
I wouldn't call it common knowledge, but some of it, like washing hands, maybe. But I mean, the things about not eating animals with fangs wasn't common knowledge. Okay, in fact,
not eating animals with fangs.
Yeah,
fangs. Is that what you said?
Yeah, fangs.
Yeah. Well, what's wrong with doing that?
Oh, did you want to explain, Ozien, maybe?
He's saying that zoonotic diseases, they're carriers of zoonotic diseases, but so are all animals. But he points out like 2 of the big ones that we've had, we think are carriers, which is HIV. Well, 3, I guess now. HIV, the one that just recently happened, and not Ebola. Ebola was the 3rd one.
Monkeys and bats are the 2 main things.
But they don't know how it was vectored, if it was through eating it, or if there's 5 different ways zoonotic diseases can be vectored. So they don't know precisely if it was through eating them, because they do eat them. It's like, well, we come into contact with them, but it could be through feces. It could be through mosquitoes. It could be through the air, like breathing the air they're breathing out. Like there's 5 different vectors for zoonotic diseases besides eating.
The thing here is it's not hard to imagine these people having common knowledge of eating certain kinds of animals getting you sick. You observe that when certain kinds of animals are eaten within your culture or within a population, those people tend to get more sick. They tend to die more frequently. They have more problems. Most people would probably infer, well, we probably shouldn't eat what they're eating. Like this stuff would not have been at all difficult for somebody back then, probably somebody who's already relatively well educated like Muhammad would have been, to have figured this stuff out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean,
so I don't see why we would need to appeal to any sort of divinity or some sort of otherwise supernatural explanation to figure out how Muhammad could have come to figure these things out.
Right. No, I object to this reasoning. I'm sorry, I object to this reasoning. And the biggest proof is McDonald's is the biggest food chain right now in the world.
What the fuck is McDonald's?
What has that got to do with anything? Subway.
Okay, no. Well, let me lay this egg before you boil it. Everyone agrees that eating fast food is not good for you. I'm not talking about those diseases. I'm talking about other issues, other health issues. Yet McDonald's and other fast foods are like some of the most consumed food from food chains in the world.
Fucking Americans. What do you expect?
No. McDonald's is all over the world. I don't know if you ever left the US, but McDonald's is everywhere.
Back in Muhammad's time? Is that what you're saying? I don't know what you're saying.
Oh.
Okay, hold on. Ask me your question. So repeat your question so I can hear.
Are you saying they had McDonald's back in Muhammad's time? Like, what are you saying?
No, that flew totally over your head. What I'm saying,
was a double quarter pounder with cheese.
What I'm saying is that knowing that something bad for you in the culture, something like if you realize that something is bad for you in the culture, does not mean that you don't need some type of regulation that makes you stop eating it. So
that's not the point.
Yeah, so
the point would be that we know that it's unhealthy. If we still choose to do it, that's fine. But the problem is that we know that it's an unhealthy thing to do.
Correct. Yeah, we know it's unhealthy, and that is spelt out for us, and many times, and warnings and things. But we live in 2 different cultures. Where in Muhammad's time, he could lay down a law saying, "Do not engage in this; it is unhealthy." Whereas our culture, it kind of is like, well, if you want to be an unhealthy, slob eating McDonald's every single night, then go at it, kind of thing. But we still know it's unhealthy.
Okay, so it should be no objection to Islam bringing a law that says do not eat these things.
You want to bring a law to ban fast food?
No. I'm talking about the fast food of the time. The fast food that runs 60 miles an hour.
Well, we're getting illegal. A little bit...
Wait. It is illegal in the United States to eat bats. You can't bring in...
Right. Correct.
So it's illegal here, but it's not based on religious... It's based on CDC. So their point stands, Samir, that Muhammad could have seen like this was a bad thing, or the culture could have known it was a bad thing, brought bad outcomes, and created a law just like the CDC did today, but we did it more based on empiricism rather than anecdotal. Like, well, it may not even be anecdotal. People were not stupid.
But I'm sorry. Since you always insist on logic and philosophy and laws and what do you call them, fallacies and all that, are you sure you want to make a point starting with probably?
Yes, because it is a probabilistic claim. Because I'm not saying that Muhammad was not in fact divinely inspired. I'm saying it's probably the case if it was a law, because I believe everything is natural, right? That if it was a law, it was based on our experience as humans, and humans were not magically dumber 1,400 years ago than they are today.
Okay, final words, Samir, and then we need to go to the next message, please.
Yeah, my final words. I feel like we're not going to agree on this point, and I don't want to waste everyone's time. I have the luxury to have Ozien with me here, and not now. You don't have to do it now, but I felt like my super chat question went totally over your head, and you answered something completely different than I asked you. Okay. I'll give you the question again and just answer it at your ease whenever you want. The Quran says, and we have made mountains as pegs, and in another verse it says, and we made the mountains as stabilizers, so the earth does not quake with you on it. So, and now, 1400 years later, we discover that the crust of the earth is like 10 miles thick, but under a mountain range, it could go all the way up to like 40 miles. So what you see in the mountains above the crust of the earth is only the small part, and the big part, just like a peg that is dug into the earth, is beneath the earth. Wouldn't you say this was a scientific prediction made by the Quran? You don't have to answer now, so I'm not taking you off topic.
Would it be science because it wouldn't explain how it knew it, and it didn't explain how far it went? It didn't provide any of that data. So it could be true through like a concept called epistemic luck, which I tried to explain in my opening. I probably didn't spend enough time on that. I wish we had talked about that more during the debate, but I know you wanted to focus on those 6 things, but and I could have pushed back more, I think, on that, but people wanted to move on.
So it looks like where we can agree, nobody's disputing the issue of, okay, the Islamic answers to these 6 issues are better, but it looks like you guys are saying it's not a miracle because it could be deduced through research, observation, and just from asking around or something like that. Therefore, you guys are saying this. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, let's take another example I've heard often: talking ants, right? So you could observe ants, how they construct, like how they work together as a colony, and how they interact, and you could look at them and say, man, it almost looks like they're talking. Like when humans go out and build these great buildings and stuff like that and work together to build these communities, they have to talk. So if ants are doing it, they must be talking to it. But the problem we run into is an anachronism, right? Because we know ants aren't actually talking. They're actually using like pheromones and stuff like that. But
no, they're talking.
But that's not what we mean by talking. But that's a different claim. I just want to be clear, Nadir. You can say it's analogous to talking. I don't have a problem with that. We don't call it talking in science.
Just quickly, Nadir, you wanted me to point out. Well, you want me to point out when you're doing interpretation? You're doing interpretation.
Okay, good. Explain how.
You're taking talking to mean some kind of metaphor, meaning that they're communicating. That is all interpretation.
Oh, wait a second. I'm. You lost me. What am I saying now?
Well, you said they do talk, and ants don't talk.
Ants talk.
No, that's your interpretation.
Okay, let me show you the reference for that. This is what scientists say. It's not what I say.
No. That's your interpretation.
They communicate. They don't talk.
Oh,
they use pheromones. They don't talk.
Okay, let me. I understand what you're saying. That you think I'm interpreting the communication of pheromones as talking, but I'm not doing that. I can promise you that.
Wait. If you're going to use some scientists, the language they use to describe a phenomenon where they use the word talk, because they don't understand how people are going to take that word talk and create an equivocation fallacy with the Quran. And that's what's happening right here. Okay. Scientists will use flowery language to describe stuff because they're not philosophers engaged in these type of debates where people will take their statements. They do this all the time. We do these debates all the time where people will take some Einstein quote out of context to mean something that Einstein didn't mean it in the first place.
And working in networks, you say all the time that computers are talking to one another. They're not talking to one another. This is just the language you use. It is a metaphor. It is an analogy. So you can get somebody who doesn't work in that field to understand what you're talking about. Like when I say, hey, the server was talking to the host computer, I'm not saying...
Well, here's what I have on my...
Yeah, simplify it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not disputing what you're saying, but this is what, if you just Google talking ants, you will actually hear the audio of them. And the scientists are saying talking ants, not me. And so
it's an equivocation fallacy.
That's fine. You take it up with them. Like, this is the Vice article. I was actually.
I am taking it up with them, and I'm taking it up with you.
Listen to these babies. Listen to these baby ants talking. I mean, that's what they're saying. Okay. So now, are they just doing it metaphorically?
Why is talk in quotes right there? And that little bit written underneath the title, talk is in quotes. Why did they do that?
Well,
would that imply that the word might be being used in a metaphorical sense?
Okay, well, that's something. Again, I just wanted. I'm glad you called that out. That whether I'm just doing that interpretation game or not, but I'm just telling you, this is what they're saying. Now, of course, could they be meaning metaphorically? I don't know. That's just what they're saying. But you see, Dr. J, I do want to let you know that's my pledge to you. I don't play any.
No. Let's go back to that. You have a habit of doing this, Nadir. You say stuff and then want to move on really quick. Let's go to that. If it is metaphorical, as it does seem to suggest with those quotation marks around the talk, then you have interpreted talk in the Quran to be accurate to the pheromones that ants produce in order to communicate. That is your interpretation. And you want it to be told when you're doing interpretation. You're doing it and you use it all the time and say, no, it is fact. Okay, this is what you do.
Okay, let's just see. Let the scientists speak. I mean, I don't know the science. Let them speak. Okay, this is what they're saying. Okay, I just Googled "do ants talk?" and all these articles come up. Yes, as from science.org, the ants are talking, and it's not just pheromones. They do actually make this clicking sound. It says ants have a special way of talking to each other. Okay, they lay chemicals which they sense through their air, but there's also audio of thousands of ants. You could literally hear them, I mean, with your ear, of them talking. Now, that's just what they say, okay? So you could take it up with them, and I'm just repeating that, yes, the scientists are saying they talk.
So
you're misrepresenting the science is what you're doing. That is what you're doing.
Even there in the 7th century, you could go up and listen to an ant community making noise. And you can see them interacting and working together. And you could draw the conclusion that they're talking. That's just an observation. We've observed this for thousands and thousands of years about ants. There's nothing miraculous about it. Now we know how they're communicating to build these structures. They use clicking noises, they use pheromones. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not making a mistake here. This has been known about ants forever, that they work together to build communities. Same thing with bees.
Can I ask Nadir a quick question? Nadir, what do you think of particle physicists sometimes describing particles as little spinning balls? Would you just take them at their word and believe that particles are literal little spinning balls, even though they're not spinning and they're not balls and they're not little because they don't have a size? Or are these particle physicists just dumbing it down for the idiots like us who know fucking nothing about particle physics?
No, yeah, probably dumbing it down for people like us.
But they're not doing that when they say ants talk to each other. No, that's not what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I would have to look in to see if what you're saying is that ants don't physically talk to each other, but just that the scientists are just metaphorically using that to make us understand it better. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
yes.
Ants communicate. Whales communicate, but I still wouldn't say that whales talk to each other. But if I did say that, people would know what I mean, that whales are communicating, even though it's not talking. Talking is sort of, in the literal sense, like a thing that humans do. But we can sort of, what's the fucking word? God, I hate forgetting words. We can we can use the word in ways where we don't mean literal human talking. Where we just mean some general form of communication between
metaphorical.
On that, I want to move on to the next message. Taking Back Eden FE, which stands for Flat Earth, send us $5 Canadian. And wonders, I'm assuming this is for Nadir. Surah Taha, I'm sorry if I mispronounce anything. 53, he who was made for you the earth like a carpet spread out. Any thought? Thank you. Is this in the Quran and what does it mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you read that verse, it says, if you read it with the proper context, it says the earth is spread out for you, so you could go out and travel and do all these things. So let's take a look at that verse, okay? If you want to go more deeper, I can show you that the actual Quranic verse is not talking about the shape of the earth. It is actually.
Sorry, Nadir, what was your interpretation of that one? Sorry.
Okay, no interpretation game. Let's just read the text. Is that okay?
So the earth is like a carpet spread out then, if we're just reading the text.
Well, let's.
I mean, the grass is kind of like a carpet. You know, it's everywhere. It's sort of spread out. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe I get what Nadir is saying. Yeah.
I got different translations of it.
Well, which verse are you talking about?
Well, I think they're talking about 53 here. It is he who has made for the earth as a bed spread out and inserted therein for you roadways and sent down from the sky rain, and it produced thereby categories of various plants. Nadir, you should do a flat earth debate.
Oh yeah,
yes,
I'm all
absolutely, Nadir.
I don't believe in flat earth, so
there's so much fun.
No. On the opposite side, on the globe Earth side, Nadir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are tons of fun.
Like you debate a flat earther.
Oh my
exactly.
goodness.
You advocate
would probably
for
like
the
it.
globe. And just to give you a little bit
I know,
of
I would
background,
like it.
Taking Back Eden does come from the flat earth background, so the aim of his question is geared towards.
That's what the FE means.
Here, let me share my screen just so we can see what the Quran actually says here. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Your interpretation.
So here we can see it would be wrong. Like this guy is talking about the entire earth is laid out below you. Now I'm sure he's probably not talking about a flat earth. You need to read it in the context here. A lot of people are talking about the earth is spread out and etc. Let's read things in there. Like this is a very good example. The earth is spread out in a magnetic field. Okay, that's the context. Good. Now let's apply the same logic to the Quran. And Allah has made the earth spread out for you.
This is a different
that
chapter.
You may travel in its diverse roads. The context here is to travel.
This is a different verse, so they're pulled up 53.
Okay. Well, when the Quran talks about the earth being spread out like a bed, well, hold on a second. When the Quran talks about the earth being spread out like a bed, being spread out, it's clear what it's referring to by looking at other passages of the Quran. So let's look at the now here's other people talking about the earth's bed. You should accuse them. Hey, you talking about a flat earth here. I just Googled this. So it looks like it's okay for people to mention. And here we go. It is he who has made for you the earth as a bed, which is echoing exactly what we read before. This is something for you so you can benefit. So, look at that. And inserted in roadways and sent down from you. So it's not talking about the shape of the earth. It's talking about how the Lord has blessed this earth for you that you could travel. The earth has to have a little bit of flatness so you can drive your car, so you can walk, right?
But all it didn't make the roads. You can't.
I go up hills all the time.
Okay, so here's a problem.
Anybody else here drive down
Here
hills?
is a big problem. You see, our arguments are based on facts. If we want to start interpreting what this bed means, and this is my point, the objections to Islam are not based on
what
facts,
does bed
based
mean,
on interpretation. And you shouldn't be doing that. Listen, when I point out scientific errors in the Bible, it's not based on interpretation. I literally bring out scientific research papers. I let the text read for itself.
Well, when you
don't play any interpretation games, you see.
Can you give me the decoder ring for the Quran so I can interpret it?
What's that?
I asked for the decoder ring during the debate. I can't.
Yeah, but
just read it in its proper context.
Baffles me, Nadir, is you just made an interpretation of that passage. You just did an interpretation of it. Like,
you literally said it has to be taken in the proper context.
Correct.
Interpretation. The proper context is what we should all.
That's interpreting something.
Interpretation.
You're interpreting it within a context.
The parable of the mustard seed should be taken in context. The parable of washing hands should be taken in context of the claim at the time.
What happened with the Quran
That was one of the messages that I was saving. That the lack of mustard seed being mentioned is hilarious. Do you want to touch? Don't get into full debate on mode because we still have a couple more messages I want to get through. Someone wants to touch on the mustard seeds.
Well, the issue here is it's hilarious because the person is ignorant. He's not understanding the situation here. If the Quran is not from God, he's copying from the Bible. And if he's copying from the Bible, then when it came across the mustard seed, the probability of you copying that same scientific error is pretty good. The fact that you didn't do it raises some good questions here. Now, can we say now the fact that the Quran doesn't have that scientifically incorrect statement is not laughable? That's a very good and wise decision made, whoever the author is.
How they make
whoever's showing their Amazon wish list, could you?
How they make mustard seeds.
It's strange
how they
because
make mustard seeds.
This thing.
Sorry, go ahead, Leo.
No, I was just going to make a joke. I was going to say, of course, the mustard seed isn't the smallest seed because that window clip said they weigh 5 pounds.
Well, here's
but
the
it was
thing.
a 5-pound bag of mustard seeds. I was just being.
Nadir, just because the Bible says that mustard seeds are the smallest, and maybe somebody found a smaller seed in the intervening time in between, it doesn't make it somehow inspired by a god or somehow scientific. They may have just found a smaller seed. And that's it. That's the entire explanation as to why it wasn't copied. And that there's nothing supernatural about that. There's nothing amazing about that. That's just they in the 600 plus years, they just found something that contradicted the Bible.
See,
big freaking deal.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Look, I'm not Mark. The point, I think we're all in agreement.
You can go after Isa.
Nobody is disputing that the Quran is giving better answers than what we are finding in the Bible. But the issue here is, okay, well, this can be easily done by through these various means, as you pointed out, Mark. That's fine. But what Muhammad was successful in doing, in debunking the divinity of Christ, Dr. J.
I don't care. I literally
you don't care.
Any
okay,
less.
That's fine because you are an atheist. You come with an atheist agenda, but you have to,
and you are debating an atheist.
Okay, but I'm trying to explain to Dr. J.
Nadir, let me ask you to please don't signal out like specifically Dr. J, because we're having a group thing here.
What I'm saying,
you didn't even debate Dr. J.
I want the Christians to listen to Mark. I want Christians to listen to these other people here. They are agreeing that, I mean, if Jesus is God, then he's not going to get beat out by Muhammad, okay, on these 6 issues. That's just a fact. And
do you think Jesus could beat Muhammad in a fight? Who do you think?
The issue here is that if he was God, okay, this is not going to happen. I want the Christians to understand now, even the atheists now can see that there's no way, in light of what we have seen tonight, that Jesus is God, and what Muhammad was successful in doing. Okay, maybe it may not have been proven a scientific miracle, but he was successful in debunking the myth of the divinity of Christ. So for that,
no, but see, the thing, what I'm trying to get across is that they had a lot of years on the Christians. Like if Muhammad was first and Christians came later and copied off Muhammad copied off Jesus copied off Muhammad, you would expect them to have more knowledge. That's just how time works. We learn more things as we go along. That's all. I'm not saying that one was better than the other. I'm saying that, hey, one just had the advantage of learning off the earlier one and being able to check the facts to see if they're correct. There's nothing amazing about that.
Well, I can refute you, but I don't want to because I want to appeal to the Christians who are listening here, and I want them to listen and hear that. Listen, I can together.
Well, I consider myself refuted.
There's no way Jesus can be God.
No, but he could beat Muhammad in a fight.
Let's hand it over to Isa, who wanted us to ask a question, and then I want to go into the next message because this one is sure to spark some debate also.
Yeah, can I just say one tiny thing? I don't think sort of saying, hey, listen to the atheist, your religion isn't true, isn't going to have the impact that you think it is, Nadir.
It's gonna. You see, the thing is, you come with this. You obviously you want to promote secularism. You don't want to proselytize for Islam. That's perfectly fine. But this is what's going to happen, though.
What I didn't like in my debate. Like I didn't do that. I didn't say Islam was false at any time. Well, maybe
No,
I
but
did.
what I'm saying is, we can now go to the Christian and say, dude, whether Islam is true or not, we would probably have to debate that. But there's no way Christianity can be true in light of what we have seen, because what I'm seeing, the atheists are seeing too. Okay,
Christianity
coming from Islam.
Christianity can't be true because the creation story is false.
Okay,
so that means Islam and Christianity and Judaism are all false.
So yeah, you both say that the other is untrue.
Yes,
I agree with both of you.
Let's give Isa a chance, please.
So I have a question that I wanted to engage because I actually am interested in this mustard seed situation, and I think it's important. How do you pronounce your name Nadir or Nadir? I just want to make sure
both are good. I mean, if you're in the ballpark, I'm okay with it.
Okay, cool. You're fine. Some people call me Isa. I get all of it. So I wanted to ask the question about this. So looking at the verse, it says the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all seeds. I think this is where the contention is.
Mm-hmm.
But when it has grown, it is the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. So this is what the narrative is. I'm curious, like, do you feel that this is like a scientific claim? I don't know. Like when I read it, I don't see that this is making a science claim. My understanding of when I'm reading this is it's basically saying that, hey, look at this tiny seed. It's so small and it looks like it can't do anything. But guess what? That one seed can grow and become this giant thing. And I think that is, and it's referring to like our kind of investment in doing spiritual things. That's kind of the way I looked at this verse. I didn't really look at it as a scientific claim. So I'm just curious why you were saying, or why do you feel this is making a scientific claim?
Well, it's not based on just Nadir. A lot of people raise this issue. Let me just share my desktop. The part which you might have overlooked is the highlighted part here. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, that is scientifically incorrect. All right. Now, other people have pointed out, another atheist actually pointed out that, and I haven't researched this, that the mustard seed actually doesn't, the mustard plant actually doesn't do this, become a tree, and the birds come perching up on it. I haven't researched that, so that might be wrong as well. But you shouldn't be making false statements. And the point here is how is it that, well, the question is, if we would assume that if Muhammad was copying from the Bible, he would have copied this scientific error or scientifically incorrect statement as well. But he didn't, and that's a very good thing. So the only point I'm making, Isa, is the Quranic usage of mustard seed is better example, because it doesn't have that problematic issue with it.
What if when they said the smallest of all the seeds, they meant like culturally, like within their culture, this is the smallest seed they deal with? Would it be an incorrect statement then? So I wouldn't think so.
Well, no, because what you're saying is, okay, the people at that time might have thought it was the smallest, right? And so you're just
I'm saying that they knew there were seeds that were smaller, but this seed is the smallest one that they ever like worked with. And so that's what they meant by the smallest of all the seeds. The smallest of all the seeds that we use.
See, but then that would kind of make God taking advantage of people's ignorance, I guess. I mean, if the people had a wrong understanding and you come and you endorse that wrong understanding, I don't think that's a very good interpretation, at all. I don't think God would do that. And I think that's why the point here, I don't want to show that the Bible's wrong. It's got scientific errors. The point which I want to make is we just got better answers. And so we could just move on from this point. I don't want to.
Yes, and it's going to come up afterwards again. So don't. Yeah.
I do have one really quick question for everybody in here. It's a real quick question. Is anybody starting to crave a hot dog with stadium mustard on it by chance?
I'm craving
donuts. I was thinking really hard about I was thinking really hard about like wild mustard and evolution into other stuff though.
All right, we have our next message from pseudonym, $5. At 19th century Britain dumped poop out their window. Does it really take science to tell you don't poop in a bucket and eat dinner after? Bottleneck people and ignore the end. But I want to ask the panel briefly go out. What's your take on this idea of basically just knowing more stuff than we used to?
Yeah, the British people
Ozien.
are just dirty. That's all you need to know.
Wow.
I think they took the Jesus parable literally, and they should have taken it figuratively, as you should live in like the image of Jesus, or like be a good person, and not just ignore the cleanliness part. Like wash your hands, don't dump shit on the road. So it could be the case that there were apologetics during certain periods of time of Christians where they took this seriously, and that would be detrimental. I don't know. Maybe Dr. J's over there squinting like, there's no way anybody was that dumb. Hey, Dr. J,
maybe, but
Dr.
I haven't
J,
heard of it.
Why did they dump shit on the streets then?
I don't know what
they had no place else to put it.
Well,
I don't recall a theological reason for it. I can tell you that.
It's because no garbage service existed in like Victorian England, and it's actually really expensive to cart stuff around because you didn't have cars and trucks and all these kinds of things, and people were just poor, so they just dumped it out the window.
You want to know what's funny, Mark, is that the Brits descend from the Romans, who had a full-formed sewage system.
I know.
Nadir.
So why didn't they just, hey, let's do the sewage thing?
Because the Christians took over the Roman Empire and it fell apart.
Well, yeah, that's kind of true. Like the Romans have a very high level of civic responsibility as part of their culture, and the British aristocracy did not.
Nadir, what's your idea on this? Do you need me to put the question back up again?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't reading it. Oh, the poop one.
The idea, kind of more to the idea, we can go outside of the poop thing, maybe go into how cultures evolve and we get more knowledge.
That's why they used to carry the umbrellas. You ever seen like it's a warm, sunny day and the women would be carrying umbrellas? That's
a parasol, and they're there to protect you from the sun. Like, seriously?
I thought it was also for the poop, though.
No.
Okay, that's
what?
I could be wrong about that.
No.
Because they throw it out the window.
For the smell.
London was nasty for a period of time. Yeah.
London
they
were nasty.
They had problems with inversion layers even through the 20th century because of all the smog they put out. They were using wood or stuff to burn for heat. They had periods of time where people couldn't go outside. They would die, asphyxiate to death because of their smog and shit like that.
I guess I'm just gonna share out this question.
I want to send it over to the comedy Bengali because he's been here but hasn't had a chance to speak. What are your thoughts on human progress and the advance of human knowledge?
I think it's gone well, and as we go on life, we start to learn more and we start to progress.
Thank you very much, and we're moving on to the next message. Then this one is for Nadir. Tell me more. $5. Did your God reveal the info about the mustard seed to Muhammad? If so, why did he not know about smaller seeds elsewhere in the world?
Well, I don't understand the issue here. I mean, the fact that, how can you blame Muhammad for not mentioning a scientifically incorrect statement? He's just staying away from that. Okay, so there shouldn't be any criticism there at all. And I mean, we're all, look, the issue here, the whole panel is not disputing the fact that Muhammad gave better answers than what we find in Jesus on these issues.
I think you're missing the question.
You know, So why didn't he go the extra step and start labeling what is the smallest seed? Why would he have to do that? I don't understand.
That's not the question. So did Muhammad reveal, or rather, did Allah reveal to Muhammad that the mustard seed is not the smallest seed? Is that why he
I don't think that was a revelation. I think I don't think maybe anybody was aware of this issue till later on. The issue about what the smallest seed was, I don't think anybody knew. And I think later on we've discovered these things on our own.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I do apologize, Leah. Just one second, Leah. Just one second. I'm just going to go. So thank you, everyone, so much. It's been an awesome talk, awesome debate. I really loved it. Well done, Oz. Well done, Nadir. Thanks for the chat afterwards. Isa, Leo, everybody else, thank you, and Max, awesome, love it. Nadir, I'll email Modern Day Debate and get our debate set up. That'll be fantastic. So I'll get in contact with you.
By the way, Mark.
Yeah.
Don't forget to empty your poop bucket tonight.
Oh,
right out the window, buddy.
Look, as much as I love,
what you got to do is you got to fling it out the window, and then you got to give the bottom side a good smack. Make sure that all the sticky clumps get out of it.
I get it carted away by kangaroos, sir. You know nothing about my culture.
Yeehaw!
Right. See you, peeps.
Take care, man.
Oh, it's not carted away by dingoes.
Thank you for watching, liking, and subscribing this video, and I want to give a big thank you to all the channel members whose support allows me to bring you more content like this in the future. Thank you so much, everyone.